Thanks so much for being here. And if you are catching the replay, thank you also for being here as well. I just want to give a special welcome to Dr. Handelsman, who's joining us here today from HRC Fertility. We are so lucky to have him here sharing his expertise for Q&A. So, Dr. Handelsman, do you want to unmute yourself and just say hi to everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi everyone. I'm one of the fertility doctors or reproductive endocrinologists, is what we formally call ourselves at HRC Fertility. Here to answer more fertility questions than specific nutrition questions because that is really Jillian's cup of tea. So, I will leave that in her camp, but also assist with, I know that often questions come up about the interplay with the two, and I'm also very excited to hear this talk.
We're so happy to have you here because, yeah, all of the fertility questions, that is not my area of expertise, all the ins and outs of that. Obviously, I'm not the doctor here, so nutrition is more of my area. So we'll have time, like I said, for Q&A towards the end of the workshop where we're going to answer all of your questions. So I encourage you to stay to the end if you are able to. All right, I'm going to get started and just share my screen here. Uh, oh, share. All right. Okay. And let me pull up the chat so that I can see you guys in here. And I'll just be slowly letting some people in the room. So if you hear me randomly pause, that is probably why. All right. So can you guys see my slides okay? Yep. Awesome. All right, so here is what you can expect today. We're going to explore the three areas to restore balance in the body that helps lower inflammation and supports conception through nutrition and lifestyle habits. But first, I just want to share a little bit about myself so that we are not strangers. So, my name is Jillian. I'm a fertility, nutrition, and wellness coach helping women who have been trying to get pregnant improve their fertility with the right nutrition and lifestyle habits so that they can take back some control and increase their chances of a healthy pregnancy. Sorry. So I spent 3 years as a certified health coach working with all types of clients. Some were managing emotional eating, others were regulating their energy and their stress, and many of them also happened to be focusing on their health in preparation for having a baby, whether that was naturally or they were doing IVF or they were trying again after a loss. And that's when I realized there was a real deeper need for this type of support during this chapter of life. And what I noticed really moved the needle was improving their relationship with food. So, not only optimizing what and how they were eating, but also healing their emotional connection to food. And this work became deeply personal for me as well because I know how it feels when you've been trying to get pregnant and things don't go exactly the way that you hoped. And during a season that can feel very isolating, consistent support and connection really do make all the difference. So, between my own trying to conceive journey and the nutrition gaps that I was seeing in the fertility space, I decided to deepen my training to become a certified perinatal nutrition expert. And that training only reinforced how critical it is for women to receive real nutrition support during this window because the just take a prenatal advice most of us are given just really barely scratches the surface. And so I've combined years of client success with research-backed fertility nutrition guidance to help women like you take back some control on a journey that often just feels like it's happening to you. So we do this inside my 3-month program called Fueling Your Fertility, and it takes a food-focused approach to supporting you on your fertility journey, and I'll share a little bit more about that later on. So, no matter where you are on your fertility journey, whether you are trying to conceive naturally, maybe through IUI or IVF, or maybe you're not trying to get pregnant just yet, but you want to get healthy and improve your egg quality for egg freezing or a future pregnancy, you're in the right spot if you want to support your body through this process and lower inflammation by optimizing what it is that you're eating. So feel free to engage in the chat, say hi. We are going to save time, like I said, for Q&A at the end with myself as well as Dr. Handelsman. So write down your questions if you have them. If you drop them in the chat, I feel like I might miss it. I'm kind of looking at a lot of different screens, so I don't want to miss any of your questions. But feel free to engage in the chat. I'm going to ask you questions, and I just love the participation. It makes this a lot more fun and engaging. So I encourage you to do that. So you might be thinking, I'm too busy to think about nutrition. Can't I just take a prenatal to kind of cover my bases? Or does nutrition really make that much of a difference, especially if I'm already going to do IUI or IVF? And those are excellent questions. Letting a couple people in the room. Okay. So studies have shown that optimizing nutrition and lifestyle really significantly influences the chances of conception, success of fertility treatment, and long-term health of your offspring, your future baby. And nutrition has an impact on blood sugar, hormones, pregnancy outcomes, and more. So I really like to think of it as creating this healthy, solid foundation that you get to play a part in because there are so many things that feel out of your control when it comes to fertility. But what you eat and how you nourish your body, those are some things you get to have some control over. And I think that's really empowering here. And supplements are a really important piece of the nutrition puzzle to fill in any gaps, but they aren't a replacement for a balanced diet with whole foods. So I like to think of food as the cake and supplements are the icing. Now, let's start with,
Love that, by
what
the way. I love that. That's
uh,
like I'm gonna steal that with my patients.
we love a good food analogy, right? Yeah. So let's start with what is inflammation and why does it even matter? Because that's why we're here today, right? So inflammation is your body's natural immune response to stress, injury, or infection. That's when it's a good thing, and it's helpful in the short term as a defense mechanism, but it can lead to health issues if it stays elevated over time, if it becomes chronic. And so research shows that chronic inflammation is linked to hormone imbalance, ovulation and implantation issues, and a higher risk of pregnancy complications. And so when inflammation is elevated, the body is in a stress state. And it's essentially signaling that now is not the best time to prioritize reproduction. It's like we got bigger fish to fry before we do that. And so lowering inflammation can help the body to feel safer and better equipped to sustain conception and a healthy pregnancy. And nutrition plays a big role in supporting inflammation. So most people don't know that they have inflammation sometimes, though, because symptoms are things that we tend to normalize. So, for example, bloating, constipation or loose stools, headaches, skin issues like eczema, painful or really flu-like periods, brain fog, energy crashes, intense sugar cravings, anxiety or mood changes, and autoimmune conditions. And there can be many reasons for these symptoms. This is not at all to diagnose. I am not the doctor here. But if we are noticing that these symptoms are coming up really regularly, then that might mean there's an inflammation problem. And it's a really good thing you're here today because I think this is going to be super helpful for you. So, what we want is to restore more balance in the body that will help lower inflammation and support conception. So, today I'm going to share with you three areas to focus on that will really help to start moving the needle, mainly through nutrition as well as some lifestyle habits. So, the first and most important one to lower inflammation is balancing our blood sugar. So, I'm going to share some practical tools that you can use to start balancing your blood sugar and support your fertility. And for those of you who are a little bit later, you might have missed the workbook link. So, I'll just drop that in the chat really quick if you want to take notes on page 2. So first thing that we want to do to balance your blood sugar is to focus on nutrients, not just calories. And we do this by making sure that there is protein, fat, and fiber in each of your meals. So calories are only one small part of the picture when it comes to food. Unfortunately, diet culture has really pushed this narrative that calories are the most important thing. But the real building blocks of your food, they're going to have the biggest impact on your fertility and your weight and your overall health in general are these macronutrients. And where do we get these macronutrients from? We get them from your food. So supplements can help us to fill in the gaps with important vitamins and minerals that our body needs to function optimally, helps with your hormones, your cycle, pregnancy, all of that stuff. But you're not going to get protein, fat, and fiber in your prenatal supplement. We really need these in larger amounts so that we need to get them from a balanced diet. So the more wide variety of foods that you have in your diet, you're also then going to get a wide variety of natural vitamins and minerals that your body needs during this process as well. So how do we know if we're even getting the right balance then, right? So all I want you to do is just see if you can check off on your plate a protein, a healthy fat, and a fiber in each of your meals and snacks. So rather than us worrying about counting macros and keeping track of numbers all day and counting, which I think is actually quite stressful and can be very helpful in the short term, but it's not very sustainable. Instead, just try looking at the portions that are on your plate. So the gold standard, what we want to aim for, and this is all about progress, not perfection, but we want to aim for half of your plate is full of fiber. So this can be fruits, veggies, legumes, and then a quarter of your plate has a quality protein. So it can be either animal or plant-based protein. And then a quarter of your plate has nutrient-dense carbs. So starchy vegetables, legumes, whole grains, things like that. And then we have a healthy fat kind of mixed in somewhere on the plate. So it can be things like olive oil, fatty fish, avocado, nuts, and seeds. So if one of those is missing, you're doing your little checklist, or you feel like there's not very much of it, I just want to encourage you to ask yourself, what can I add to my plate to make it a little bit more balanced and a little bit more colorful? And when I work with clients, we keep a simple food journal to do this. So I encourage clients to take photos, and you can write a list too if that's easier for you. But I noticed like the photos is a really helpful way to just kind of visually have awareness of what we're eating. Yeah, it's a good tip, right? Um, it keeps us accountable. Even as a nutrition coach, sometimes I'm like, I think I need to write down my food because we just kind of mindlessly tend to eat. And having the little food journal is just a way to kind of be more aware of what you're actually eating. And the pictures can help show again what gaps we may need to fill in your diet rather than just focusing on the calories. So try to look at your meal visually just to see if you can check off those three nutrients and see how simple and effective that is a good place to start. So before we go on to the next tool to balance blood sugar, though, I really want to offer a reframe on what eating healthy actually looks like because you're going to get different answers for what healthy means depending on who you ask, especially if you're scrolling through social media. It's the Wild West out there. In this case, when we're talking about eating healthy in the context of fertility, we really want to move away from diet culture and restriction and instead focus on nourishing your body really intentionally. So many women that I work with often focus on foods they're supposed to cut out. And that's really understandable because much of the advice out there really emphasizes restriction. And many also carry past dieting experiences that shape how they approach food today. I notice that a lot with a lot of clients that come to me. But focusing on just cutting things out can feel so overwhelming, especially if you're trying to conceive or you're going through fertility treatment and you're already pretty stressed about everything that's on your plate. So, undereating also puts the body under stress. And chronic stress, like we said earlier, it tells the body not to prioritize conception, that we have other things to take care of first. Because your body ultimately just wants to keep you safe. So, it's going to prioritize all the other functions that are keeping you alive and well before it puts energy into creating a new life. So rather than us stressing over all the things you shouldn't be eating, and I say that in quotes, instead, I really want to invite you to think of, what do I get to add to nourish my body even more today? And I think that's just in general, a little bit more enjoyable way to think of food. So, another key part of balancing blood sugar is prioritizing breakfast. Now, we're not just talking about eating anything for breakfast, but again, one with that balance of nutrients we just talked about. So, the protein, healthy fat, and fiber. So the cup of coffee that you're having on an empty stomach, unfortunately, that's just not going to cut it, especially if you have a hormone disorder, something like PCOS. Coffee on an empty stomach and intermittent fasting, that can sometimes mess with our hormones. It's not something I really recommend. And so the most common reasons that I see most people skipping breakfast are one, they're really busy in the morning, they're running out the door, or they're just not very hungry. So they just decide, I'm going to skip it. I'm just going to wait until lunch. Figure they might as well save the calories, right? But unfortunately, this can kind of backfire. And so the first solution, if you skip breakfast because you're not very hungry first thing, then I want to just invite you to kind of reframe it as a small snack to kind of wake up your metabolism. So it can just be a handful of nuts and some berries or grapes, or maybe a little bit of plain Greek yogurt with some fruit on top. Just something small to kind of wake up your metabolism for the day. Second solution, if your mornings are really busy and you're running out the door, you don't feel like you have time, try prepping something that you can grab on your way out the door. So this can be smoothies with protein, overnight oats or chia pudding, frittata or egg bites are really good for the week. Eggs are a really great fertility packed superfood. They have a lot of nutrients. So if you can eat eggs, I really encourage you to add that into your breakfast routine. And many of my clients have started getting into the habit of prepping breakfast for the week, having breakfast, even if they weren't before. And it has drastically improved like their energy, their mood, their cravings throughout the day. And if you're somebody who is not really into prepping or meal planning, or it feels really overwhelming to you, that is something we do in Fueling Your Fertility. We have a done with you day where we do meal planning or meal prepping together. And it can help you get more comfortable in the kitchen with that. There's also a ton of resources that we have. So, all of this just to say that it doesn't have to be something that is really, you know, intimidating that you're avoiding, and we can make it a lot easier. Uh, just let somebody in the room. Okay. So, whatever you do, I just want to encourage you to really start small, start wherever you're at. I am all about progress, not perfection. So, start small, aim for protein, fat, and fiber, especially in your morning meal. And I would love for you to just think about this and drop this in the chat. If you think about your breakfast this morning, and there's no judgment here, if you didn't eat breakfast or it wasn't like your best moment, that's okay. But think about what maybe your meal could use a little bit more of next time. Is it protein, fat, or fiber? Just let me know in the chat what you think maybe you might want to add going forward. I know for me, I had a smoothie this morning, so I kind of ticked all the boxes, but I think protein is often kind of hard and fiber, yeah, could up the fiber. I find that fiber is kind of not been getting the attention it needs. Everyone's really talked a lot about protein, and protein is extremely important, but fiber kind of gets dismissed sometimes. So we need to add in more of the fiber a lot of the time. I could use all three. I've just had coffee. That's great. See, this is a judgment-free zone. This is just building awareness. So I love that. Something to kind of work towards. All right. Okay, so the second area where we want to restore more balance in order to lower inflammation is with healthy fat. Now, you may be thinking, now, like, Jillian, isn't fat bad? Maybe you've been told to just stick with low fat options whenever possible. But the truth is we really need fat for our hormones to function properly, especially progesterone, which is important for implantation, as well as balancing your blood sugar. absorbing certain nutrients and reducing inflammation. And chronic low-fat dieting can also create stress in the body, which can contribute to inflammation. So the key thing we want to pay attention to, though, is what kinds of fat are we talking about, though? What are we eating in terms of healthy fat? So to support fertility, what we want to do is reduce inflammatory fats, and we want to add in more of the healthy fats. Starting with step one, reducing inflammatory fats. That includes trans fat. So studies have shown that just 2% of daily calories coming from trans fats can increase your infertility risk by as much as 70%. So it's not something to joke around with. Where these fats can show up in is in processed foods, baked goods, fried foods to help extend their shelf life, margarine. There's a lot of like frozen baked kind of goods and like doughs or pizzas. Things like that can have trans fats kind of hidden in them. So what you can do is prioritize more home prepped meals instead of doing a lot of takeout or fast food. And then look for the words partially hydrogenated oils listed on nutrition labels. I wouldn't just look at, trans fat under like where the calories and everything is listed, but really looking at the ingredients that are listed on the food. And then if it is listed on there, maybe we try opting out for a product that doesn't have that ingredient listed. Oh yeah, I love that this is happening during lunchtime. Perfect thing. Yeah, perfect time to think about our meals. Yes. All right, so another type of inflammatory fat that we want to reduce is excess seed oils that are primarily in processed foods. Now, I need to kind of preface this. There's a lot of talk on the internet about how these seed oils are highly toxic and you should avoid them at all costs. And that is not entirely accurate. We do not need to be that extreme. I don't really like to work in that way personally as a coach. Now, seed oils are not inherently bad. It's just that most of us are getting way too much of them in our diet. So the reason for this is that they're in a lot of packaged foods, they're in a lot of processed foods, they're also in a lot of takeout and fast food. And the reality is many people are eating these foods on a regular basis. So seed oils, just like a little bit of nerding out for a minute, just to kind of help understand why this is. So seed oils are high in omega-6 fats, which we need, as well as omega-3 and we also need omega-3 fats, right? So the problem is though, is most of us are getting way too many of these omega-6 fats in all those foods I just mentioned, but we're not getting enough of the omega-3s. And that imbalance is what is contributing to inflammation. And so a study that showed that women who had fast food or takeout 4 times per week had double the risk of infertility compared to the women who did not consume fast food regularly. And it also showed lower quality sperm. So what is the solution here, right? What we can do is add in more of these omega-3 fats into our diet to balance out that ratio, as well as other healthy fats that also help lower inflammation. And ideally, again, we want to try to cook at home more if we can, so we have control over the ingredients that are going into our food, and we can just naturally start to cut back on the number of times that we're eating out per week. Now, I know that can be easier said than done for some people who are maybe not super comfortable in the kitchen, or cooking just feels really time consuming and intimidating. But there's so many ways that we can make this easier for you, so you're not just spending hours and hours in the kitchen cooking every day. There's shortcuts that you can take. And the good news is it also is likely to save you money because eating out has gotten really expensive, right? And ideally you want eating out to feel like a treat rather than this habit that you have to default to. And then now, once we've reduced some of these inflammatory fats, what we want is to now kind of balance that out. So step two is then adding more healthy fats. Now, this includes the omega-3s I was just talking about. So in one study, increasing omega-3 fats showed a 50% higher chance of conception each month. And so if you can try adding in more fatty fish, like salmon, for example, a few times per week, plus nuts and seeds like flax, chia, walnuts, things like that. If you're not eating that at all right now, maybe you increase it just once per week. Just start wherever you're at and see like what is one step better. Other healthy fats include monounsaturated fats. So these come from foods like avocados, nuts, seeds. I think everybody should be eating more nuts and seeds. So if you take anything else away from today, eat more nuts and seeds and fish. But eating more nuts and seeds, avocados, things like that. Also, since we're trying to encourage, cooking at home more, we want to make that easier. So you want to stock your kitchen with cooking oils like olive oil, which is great for low and medium heat cooking. And then for high heat cooking, if you can have coconut oil, avocado oil, butter, or ghee, if you're dairy free, those are really great for high heat cooking. And just having those available can also just make cooking a little bit easier. All right.
At what temperature do you consider it high heat cooking versus low heat cooking?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just if you're like cooking on the stove, I would just kind of gauge like whatever is like at the medium to low. Like I would literally just look at it that way. If you're frying or searing or anything like that, whatever's past the halfway point, I would consider that high heat and just err on the side of caution and use those, the coconut oil, the avocado, things like that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Jillian, is it a subset of nuts that you like, or is it the processing of excuse me, not nuts, seeds? Is it a subset of seeds that you like, or is it the processing of seeds into seed oil that makes some of the seed oils less beneficial to us?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think with seed oils, like the processing definitely has because like the seeds we want, right? But there's so much processing that goes into the making of the seed oils by the time we're using those in the cooking, especially in things like takeout where it's not as high quality, all of those nutrients have really just been kind of stripped away. A lot of times there can be like, chemical processes that kind of makes it not as nutritious. So, yeah, that's partly also what's kind of adding to it. So, eating a whole seed, like hemp seeds, chia seeds, like in its, edible form is very different than using them in like the oil form. All right. So before we dive into the final piece of how to lower inflammation, I just want to take a few minutes to share how you can get deeper support beyond this workshop, just in case that is something that you are looking for. Would that be okay for me to share that with you guys? All right. So if you're trying to conceive, whether that is naturally or you're looking to do IUI or IVF, or you're planning to freeze your eggs and you want trusted nutrition guidance to kind of guide your body through this process, I offer a 3-month fertility nutrition program. It's called Fueling Your Fertility. It's a food first, science backed one-on-one program designed to help women like you have some agency in this fertility journey and support your body through better nutrition and lifestyle habits. So, through this 3-month experience, you have clarity on what food and lifestyle changes actually improve your fertility and the long term health of your future baby. No more wading through conflicting advice on the internet or guessing if what you're doing is even really necessary. You'll have simple fertility supportive routines that are within your control and help to regulate your hormones, your energy, your nervous system, all those things so that it doesn't feel like you're just constantly hitting the reset button. And you'll have confidence and peace of mind that you're supporting your body with what it needs to welcome a healthy, growing baby. You'll have less stress just knowing that there is a plan, a process, and a trusted guide who is helping you make progress in between your appointments. And you'll have likely more time and energy back each week because how much time are you probably wasting, worrying and overthinking every little step on your own? And I know that you have plenty of doctor's appointments, plenty of things going on. So this is really designed to fit within your life and help optimize things that you're already eating, that you're already doing, like eating. And I'm going to help you guide you so that it is working towards your fertility goals instead of potentially working against you. And of course, there's no way to guarantee a successful pregnancy. We know none of us can do that. But studies have shown that optimizing nutrition and lifestyle can help improve your chances. And no matter what, my goal here is to really help you make those changes so that they become part of your everyday routine that you can carry through with you to pregnancy and postpartum. And you feel like you are doing everything that you can to take really good care of yourself during this process, no matter what happens. And that was the case for a long-term client of mine who we'll call Alice. So Alice first came to me because she was struggling with emotional eating and weight loss. And she was preparing to start IVF. She had a high BMI and she needed to get that in a better place in order to start and have a good chance. And she was trying, after years of trying to conceive and suffering a devastating loss. And at the time of when we started working together, she didn't trust herself around food. She would binge eat. She felt completely out of control anytime sweets were around. And she was really stuck in this all or nothing cycle that so many women experience with food. And she felt really scattered. She had a hard time saying no to people. She was constantly putting everyone else's needs before her own. And that just made her struggles with food even harder. But over time, when we were working together, that really started to shift. And now she has a totally different relationship with food. One where she feels really calm, she feels confident, she feels really thoughtful about her choices. She like hardly even asks me for help anymore because she's just like got this down so well. And she meal preps every week, healthy meals. It's just like part of her normal routine. And the sugar cravings that she used to feel really overwhelmed by are no longer a problem. And she was able to lose enough weight and improve her nutrition that she could safely begin IVF. And she went through more than a year of egg retrievals before she got the number of healthy embryos that she really wanted to get, despite being over 40. And she had a genetic mutation that increased her risk. And after years of failed transfers and loss and wondering if she might never be able to might be able to become a mom, she finally got pregnant with a baby girl. And she is through IVF, Miracle IVF, and she's actually about to give birth like this week. So I haven't checked in with her yet because I don't want to like impose, but very, very excited about that. So it's been such a privilege to really like walk alongside her in that journey, really helping her transform her nutrition and her relationship with food, and then supporting her all throughout her pregnancy and eventually postpartum. And here's a couple of testimonials that she shared, but I think it's important to say like for some people, having an expert that not only provides guidance and support and accountability, so you're not sifting through all this information, but also just really understands what you're going through because this is a very, emotional roller coaster of a process. And it really helps to take some of that pressure off when you're working with somebody who kind of understands where you're coming from. It makes the journey a little bit easier. So, Fueling Your Fertility is a private, personalized experience where you have my full support for 3 months. And the beauty of fertility nutrition coaching is you not only get support on our calls, but you also have a trusted guide in your back pocket in between appointments too. So nutrition questions if you have them, meal planning, accountability, cooking support, whatever you need, it's all covered. And I help take the guesswork out of what, how, and when to eat so you're not stuck sifting through all of that information on the internet, wondering what to believe. Because the truth is you really do need more than just like a few recipes handed to you or eat this, not that list. You really need somebody to help you, actually apply it to your life and, have that accountability in between appointments. And that's exactly what this program does. So right now I'm offering this program at a very special rate of one payment of $597 or two payments of $325. Oh yeah, the fertility toxin audit. So yeah, so the pay in full is the best bang for your buck. I like to offer the payment plan for flexibility. And then if you do sign up by May 22nd, you'll also get a special bonus, the fertility toxin audit, which I'm really excited about this. So this audit takes a closer look at your food and your everyday environment to target key areas where you can reduce your toxic load and get the most healing power from your diet, which we're going to do together, and support your fertility. So we take a look at everything from your food, how you store it, your cooking utensils, your skincare, your household products. There's more categories than that. And then I take everything that you share and record a personalized video for you with my specific recommendations for easy, simple swaps that you can do to start helping your fertility with this process. So if you're interested in, working together and you want to find out if it's a good fit, just book a free call with me and we can talk about it. There's no pressure. I find it's the best way to just kind of hear your story, get to know you, and see how you feel about that and answer your questions. So I put that link in the chat there. All right. So part 3, movement and exercise. This is the third area that we're going to talk about today to help restore balance and lower inflammation, and that is with movement. So nutrition is one of the most important factors that is impacting inflammation, but other lifestyle habits, including movement or exercise, also play a really big role. So consistent, moderate movement helps regulate blood sugar, it reduces inflammatory markers, it improves your circulation. All of these things are supportive for your fertility. And I like to use the word movement. Sometimes the word exercise can be triggering, so you can call it whatever you want that makes it feel like a little bit less of a scary thing. Sometimes there really is power in what you're calling it. And I find, we all know exercise is important. You don't need me here to tell you that exercise, that we should be doing it, right? The problem that most of us are having trouble with is staying consistent with it. That's where we're getting tripped up, right? I'd love to know, like, drop a 1 in the chat if movement is something that you would love to be a little bit more consistent with than what you are doing right now. You just drop a 1 in the chat if that's you. Yeah. I have moments like that too. Yes. So go ahead and pull up your workbook and go to page 4 to jot down your answers and take notes. I'd love for you to answer this question for yourself. If you want to share it in the chat, feel free, but you don't have to. So, what tends to make it harder for me to follow through with movement or exercise? Now, if you just said, oh, it's time or it's work, I want to encourage you to dig a little bit deeper and be more specific as to what exactly about time or what exactly about work is making it feel harder. And again, we're practicing curiosity without judgment here. We're not judging how well or not well we're doing something. Boring, hard to decide if I need to rest or movement with limited time, working from home, cooking time. Yes. Okay. So once you have an idea of what might be kind of getting in your way, let's just see how we can maybe close that gap a little bit with 3 tools to help make movement a consistent part of your routine. And just as a quick side note, these tools work for just about any habit or routine that you're trying to build, not just movement. So if you're struggling with, meal prepping, cooking more, whatever the habit is, see how you might be able to apply these 3 tools. So the first one is block it on your calendar. So most of us don't just happen to have extra time lying in our day to just work out by chance. You have to really intentionally set aside some time for it, like you would anything else, like you would any other appointment. So think of your calendar right now as being a reflection of your priorities. Think about what is on there. So, what does your calendar currently show about how you're spending your time? And is that reflective of the person who you want to be? And if it's not, what can we change about it to maybe make it move in that direction a little bit? Now, this workout does not have to be long. It can be 10 minutes. I always say, I meet my clients where they're at. If they're not really moving at all, like let's just start with a walk around the block every single day. If it's a 10-minute walk, that is fine. It's better than nothing at all. If you want, it can be time at the gym, but it could also be a YouTube workout that you put on at home. It could be, going on a walk with your favorite podcast on at the end of the day. It could be doing some arm exercises with weights while you watch TV. I like doing that. I have clients who like doing that because it feels a little bit more fun at the end of your day. Some other practical tips to just help make this feel more doable is scheduling in your movement time on your calendar, like you would your doctor's appointment or any other meeting where you're being held accountable to somebody else. Treat it with that same importance as if you were showing up for somebody else. And then you can also set a alarm or a reminder on your phone. I find this is just helpful in the beginning when you're just starting to establish a habit and we need that trigger to kind of remind us. Or if you're noticing it's more of a mental block that's coming up around exercise, I know somebody had kind of mentioned that, like you just don't really feel like doing it, then when that reminder pops up and you're thinking like, oh, I have to exercise now, instead try a reframe of I get to move my body now. There's a little bit more of that mental part that also comes into play as well. So if you're in a phase of life where it just feels extra busy and you feel like it's too overwhelming to dedicate a chunk of time to exercise on your calendar, maybe you have a toddler and you're trying to get pregnant with a second kid and you're just like, that ain't happening right now. Then what I would suggest you try doing is just pick one exercise and stack it into some other part of your daily routine that you're already in the habit of. So, for example, when you brush your teeth in the morning, or you're making your cup of coffee, then that's when you go do 20 jumping jacks or 20 squats. And that's your movement for the day. So just stacking it into your existing routine. Tool number two, and I think this would be helpful for somebody who said it doesn't feel exercise doesn't feel fun. So we need to make it easy and we need to make it fun. So we're going to stick with habits that feel the easiest and the most enticing to us. That's just how our brain works. So we need to remove any barriers within our control that are making it harder. So think about what is one barrier that keeps you from following through with exercise? Is it feeling too tired at the end of the day? Maybe we need to try going to bed a little bit earlier so we can switch to more of a morning routine. Is it too hard getting to the gym? I find this a lot with people. We want to just like aim for the moon here and we're biting off more than we can chew, especially in the beginning. So maybe an hour at the gym is just too much of a barrier right now. What if we started with a shorter workout at home or a walk around the block or a virtual class, things like that. And then once you've identified a barrier that you can remove, see where we can make it more fun. So maybe you have a pump up song or a theme song that kind of kicks off your workout and kind of gets you in a better mood. Maybe you switch up your routine and just try something entirely different that you've always wanted to try. You could do jump roping, you could do Pilates. I'm always secretly trying to get everyone into rock climbing because I'm a rock climber and it's so much fun. So, highly recommend. But just trying something new, switching up your routine. You can also just put on a podcast, music, an audiobook, find a buddy to join you. So, something that can make it a little bit more enjoyable. Think of one way that you might be able to make your routine a little bit more fun, a little bit easier, so that you can actually follow through on it this week. And then the third tool, which I think most of us probably aren't doing this enough, is to celebrate and reward yourself. I know I struggle with this one. And the reason is your brain prioritizes the things that give you a feel-good boost of chemicals. So, like things like serotonin and dopamine, your brain's going to prioritize those things. And we feel those when we are feeling like we're rewarded. So, one way to get that feel-good boost is to hear yourself just acknowledge your wins out loud. It sounds very simple and stupid, but most of us aren't doing this. So this is how we start each of our coaching calls is just starting out with our wins, saying out loud like what is going really well, and it just helps to kind of boost that motivation. Another way is with a tangible reward. So that could either be a food or an activity reward. So a lot of times I've noticed we gravitate towards food rewards because they feel quick and easy. Our brain latches onto them. We know we're going to get a dopamine hit from it. When we go out for ice cream or eat our favorite cookie, right? And that is totally fine in moderation. But I always want to encourage you to not only choose food related rewards, but also activities that bring you joy. So, whether that is like a trip to the beach or a pedicure or a massage, or just having a bubble bath to yourself, for example. And I think when it comes to celebrating yourself, it's also important to not just focus on the end result, which we don't always have full control over, but we want to reward ourselves for the effort that we are putting in. So, having like a habit tracker is something I like to do with clients, or a star chart, which is really fun. So, every time you do your workout or whatever habit is you're working on, you give yourself a sticker or just a check mark and try and keep that streak going, which I find is really motivating for people. And I think it's a good visual reminder of the progress you're making rather than us just focusing on an end result. So I'd love to know in the chat, like, which of these three tools do you think that we just talked about would be most helpful for you to try this week? Is it one, blocking it on your calendar? Is it two, making it a little bit more fun and easy? Or three, like celebrating and rewarding yourself a little bit more? Yeah, two, lots of twos and ones. Yeah. I'm a big scheduler. I love to make plans, so I definitely have to put my workouts in my calendar or else it just does not happen. So, all right. So I want to just invite you as we're wrapping up here to take a minute to just kind of tune into your body, reflect on what signals might your body be giving you that it needs just a little bit more balance. So, are you crashing mid-afternoon every day and just needing caffeine to power through? That might be a sign your blood sugar is off balance. Are you hungry again an hour after eating? Now, if meals don't keep you full for at least 3 to 4 hours, you may need more protein, fat, and fiber to balance them out. If you're exercising really, really hard and you're not seeing results, your body just might be stressed and you need more recovery and nutrients and calories. If you're feeling really bloated or have gut issues or headaches, eczema, or really, really painful periods, these could be signs of inflammation and that something is off balance. And again, these aren't diagnoses, it's just your body letting you know like something is up. And we have to learn how to interpret these signals and just kind of give our body a little bit more of what it needs. So I'd love to know in the chat, like, what is one takeaway? I know we shared a lot of different tools today, but like, what is one change you want to make this week just based on something you heard today or just something that really clicked with you? I'd really love to know. I think it's really, really helpful to hear like what resonated the most. And while I give you a minute to share that in the chat, I want to leave you with a couple of things. So the first one is I have a free resource for you. It's my inflammation support checklist. So we covered a lot of really important ways you can start lowering inflammation in this workshop today, but there's so many more things you can also do to start moving the needle. And to make it easy, I compiled them into this checklist. It's a resource that I normally share with clients, but I wanted you guys to have it. We go a lot deeper on these things inside the program and applying it to your real life in great depth. But this I find is like a really helpful resource to refer back to. I mean, I personally just like love a list, so I'll put that link in the chat. And then I was just noticing some of your answers coming through. Increasing fiber, good. I'm glad somebody heard that. On a mission to get everyone to eat more fruits and veggies. Balanced breakfast, focusing on the better fats. Yeah, great. Visualizing every meal, the importance of breakfast. Yeah. And that's something I think is important too, is I'm sure you've heard some of these things, right? But understanding a little bit more of like the why behind it, that it's not just like someone told you you should eat breakfast one time. So like, I guess I have to do it. It's like understanding why that actually makes a difference so that you feel a little bit more empowered to actually do it for yourself. So I think that's important. Second thing I want to leave you with before we do our Q&A is if you want more personalized, in-depth nutrition support while trying to conceive, um, and you want some trusted guidance to really help you through that process, I want to invite you to join my Food First program. It's called Fueling Your Fertility. You have accountability, personalized guidance, so that you have a little bit more agency in this unpredictable process and you have someone in your corner in between all of those appointments. So if you're interested, you can just go ahead and book a call through the link. We can talk about it, answer all of your questions. There's no pressure either way. And yeah. Oh, one more, increase good fat, protein, and fiber in my meals so I'll eat less snacks in between meals. Okay. Oh, and a good question here. So we have time for Q&A, and Dr. Handelsman is here to generously share his expertise on the fertility treatment side. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can all see each other. So if you have any questions about fertility treatment, so egg freezing, IUI, IVF, anything else, nutrition, go ahead. You can unmute yourself. You can drop your questions in the chat. I know Dr. Handelsman has like a hard stop at 1:30, so ask him all of your fertility questions, and we'll do our best to help answer. And I think you had also, Dr. Handelsman, a special offer, I think, for everybody.
Yes, I do. Our consultation, as far as I remember, I think we got this approved. Our consultation is there's typically some kind of consultation fee if your insurance doesn't cover it. So we are doing for everyone who's attending this, assuming your insurance doesn't cover it, the consultation would only be $100 for the initial consultation. And someone just actually confirmed for me that it is official. We're doing the $100 discounted instead of the full price, whatever that is, for the consultation. But of course, insurance often covers it now. So I don't know if you guys know this, but as of 2026 in California, a lot of insurance is covering fertility care. This is brand new. It's finally, you would think California would be very progressive in this, but they took their time making this happen. But it covers things including IVF and IUI, where if your insurer is through your work and your work employs at least 100 employees, then they are required to cover it. If you don't work for a company that's at least 100 employees, which is still a lot of people, some of them are still offering it even though they're not required to. So a lot of insurance is covering stuff that we don't realize, and so take advantage of that if you can.
Yes, that's a really good thing you should take them up on. And I agree. It's amazing that we're finally just getting caught up with the insurance, but a lot of people don't know about that. So I'm really glad to just, that you're spreading the word on that and making people a little bit more aware of their options. Um, so yeah, if you guys have any questions, I know we have a couple in the chat that I'm actually like busy typing to typing and answering. Um,
Well, I'm interested when it comes to egg freezing if you already have nutritional deficiencies from malabsorption and you're like around 40, like on one hand there's the time issue with age and on the other hand there's the nutritional deficiencies from malabsorption. So help.
yeah. I feel
Um,
like that's like partly your question and mostly your
it's
question and
It's
maybe.
actually, I see it as very much exactly a half and half question. So I'll answer my half of it and throw it to you, Jillian. So I think it's important to have the nutrition optimized as much as you can while we're trying to conceive. So whether you're conceiving naturally or with IUI or IVF, it's all the same where we do want your nutrition as in control as we possibly can. And that's where Jillian can help a little bit more with, how do you overcome what is your specific nutritional deficiency? Because I think it's hard for me in my medical setting to really get into specifically for your malabsorptive case, what are you not getting enough of and looking into that. So optimizing that. But then you brought up the point of, you're 40 and how do we what do we focus on more and where do we take that? So if you know that you're not going to be doing IVF, for example, and you're just trying on your own, then I do think you should really, really focus on getting the nutrition first, because that could be a big part of what's been preventing pregnancy, for example. We don't know. If we know that you're going to be doing IVF, then I would say do it hand in hand at the same time. Get your nutrition balanced, but I wouldn't put off IVF for, say, 6 months or a year, just to start doing a program of nutrition if you know yourself and you know that it's going to take some time to actually start doing it, because you can really get the most benefit doing IVF sooner than later when you're 40, at least getting those embryos frozen, and then you can work on optimizing everything for pregnancy before we then put that embryo back into your uterus.
I guess my question, it's not really got to do with Jillian because eating food is like already doing everything she mentioned and more. It's really a malabsorption for me, malabsorption causing a lot of significant nutritional deficiencies. Like ferritin was 6, and in 2 years it's gotten up to 18 with iron supplements and eating liver. So they're not minor nutritional deficiencies, and there are a number of them. So my question is like, given that I've been working on it with supplements and eating things that don't taste good for their nutrition for several years, um, like at like, do I need to resolve the nutritional deficiencies before egg freezing, or do I just freeze the eggs with the nutritional deficiencies due to age? When I know there's like vitamin A, vitamin D, zinc, iodine, iron, like these are, not minor deficiencies.
Yeah, all those vitamins you stated, especially I think on that specific list, vitamin D has the most evidence for having an impact, are important. And so doing what you're doing, which is supplement, of course, diet, but then when we see that with your specific case, the diet is not enough, and so you have to add supplementation, then we do that. Sometimes we have, and you've probably been doing this with the iron, sometimes there are injectable versions for when iron is very low, and that's true for some of the other vitamins. So I think this is a very specific case where you kind of need a little bit more than what your body is letting you get orally. But to your point about, do I kind of say, is this the point where I now go and freeze my eggs? I think it sounds like you've been working on it for a long time. This might be the point where, yes, you freeze your eggs and you don't put off freezing eggs, because your eggs have been with you your whole life. And so they've seen that low nutrition environment your whole life, and improving it, say for 2 months right before you then freeze your eggs, is not going to make as drastic of an impact than waiting, say, a year to really improve all your nutrients. And then your eggs are now frozen at age 41 and 40, where we see the biggest change in the normality of eggs really in the late 30s and early 40s. So is that answering your question, Angela?
Yeah, thank you.
And I mean, I would just say this isn't my scope, but I don't know if you're working with like a dietitian or someone who can really help you with that gut issue so that we're, not just adding more supplements and not solving the problem underneath, but if you can kind of get to the root cause of where this, gut inflammation is happening and kind of, but like you said, it's not doing one and then the other. It's kind of doing them both at the same time and taking care of your eggs sooner than later. But yeah,
Well, health insurance has kind of failed thus far in determining the root cause of the malabsorption,
I know.
but we'll see what happens.
I do have a couple recommendations I could make. I could just email you separately if that's helpful at all. But
Yeah, thank you.
okay, I know we had a couple. That was a really good question.
Yeah.
Let me see. Okay, so I know Dr. Handelsman, if you have any more questions really related to fertility treatment, feel free to unmute yourself. Um, Okay. I guess that was, if there's more that you should be doing, Angela, you already, or this is a different Angela. I was like, we have two different Angelas here. Okay, so Angela in the chat, Angela K asks, I have an autoimmune disease, psoriasis, and know that I have high inflammation. Is there something more that I should be doing in addition to diet, exercise, supplements? Very good question. The way that I look at it here is we can only control so much, right? You can only really work on what you have control over, which is diet, exercise, the supplements that you're taking. So I would say start with some of these things that we've talked about today. I would look at that inflammation checklist to just see if there's anything else that you aren't doing. Because again, I feel like even if you're eating really healthy, it's like, what does that actually mean? Like if we can have a more in-depth look at like what you're actually eating, I think that's a better clue as to like what might be missing that we could tweak. In terms of inflammation as well, I know like acupuncture is also a good thing. But again, it's like you're already doing so many things. We don't have control over everything. So, yeah, sounds like you're already doing a lot of things. But check
Thank,
the checklist. I feel like that could be really helpful. If there's any other
thank
stuff.
you. I've added acupuncture as well. And I really appreciate this talk because I feel like a lot of times this topic of nutrition and diet exercise is really, in my experience, has not been something that I've had my endocrinology reproductive doctors even discuss. It's like
Yeah.
there's no discussion about how healthy you are going into this process. So I really appreciate this talk. It's really great. Thank you.
Good. I appreciate you saying that. And I'm
Yeah.
really happy that we have, doctors like Dr. Handelsman and HRC Fertility who are willing to collaborate and bring this to light because I think, yeah, the more people that know about this, because most of us were not really actually taught how to eat healthy. We were given like a food pyramid when we were in school, and like, what the heck is that even? So a lot of these are just like basic things that most of us don't know how to like really truly eat well and take care of ourselves. And that really starts to bubble up and come up when we're having fertility struggles. So, um,
And I'll add that they barely even go into that in medical school too. So it's not
yeah.
just growing up, but even through medical school, we were barely taught that. So that's why you need someone like Jillian who actually knows and learned how to do it because as doctors, we know a lot about general health and all that, and a lot of us have take more of an interest, so we'll do more additional reading, but we didn't have any formalized curriculum in actual nutrition.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point of like it's okay to have different people that you're working with to create your team. Like the most successful clients that I've had that have gone on to have like, healthy pregnancies after a lot of struggles is they embrace this approach of having like your medical team. Like they've got their therapists are working on their mental health. They do their acupuncture. They have their, reproductive endocrinologist. They have their nutrition person. Like they have their coach that's like helping them integrate all of these things. You don't have to have all of those things, obviously, but it's being okay with looking at it as a really holistic approach. Um, and Melody also asked if the task of cooking causes stress for me. Is there a packaged delivery meal service that you recommend? Yes, I have a client who is a very busy lawyer, and she was like, it's just too much for me to like go grocery shopping and do all these things. So we looked at doing Sunbasket and Home Chef, I believe were the two. And I've actually tried Sunbasket myself in the past. So those are two that I would recommend. I think that's a good alternative to help you just cook at home more and get into that habit. It's a great place to start. Any other questions? Oh, oh yeah, Angeli, who had asked that question. I know, Dr. Handelsman, if you have a minute, I was going to ask you a couple of other questions. I think I told you. Um, what are some of the most common misconceptions patients have when they come to you about IVF or IUI, things you find yourself correcting regularly?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I think one of the big things is that there's no one solution for everyone. So just because your friend did, whether it's IVF or IUI, and and then you've heard that you should do this other thing, it doesn't mean that what your friend did works for you and vice versa. It doesn't mean that certain things don't work for you. Just because you have, say, PCOS, does that mean that you can't get pregnant in this way? No, it doesn't mean that. Everyone is individual, and you really have to kind of walk into and have an open mind to what the diagnostics will look like in terms of let's evaluate before we just jump into treatment, see what's going on here, and then we'll jump into treatment. I know that we're in a rush to get into treatment because by the time you've seen a physician, you've already been trying at home. We know that, right? And so we're not looking to waste your time, but we're doing as fast as we can, which is usually within a month, we finish our evaluation and then we go into whatever the best treatment is. So I find myself correcting that. And the other big thing, sorry, a twofer, the other big thing that I find myself correcting a lot is that fertility is not forever, and it seems that way from media. Like you will often see so and so celebrity who got pregnant on their own, and they're at this certain age that seems impossible to us doctors. And I used to deliver babies at Cedars-Sinai, so I know a lot of these celebrities who are out there delivering these babies are not actually getting pregnant at that age on their own. They're either using eggs that they froze earlier or they're using donor eggs. And so all that to say is not to put undue pressure on you, but it's also to have realistic expectations and not to put off things for too long. So if you have the opportunity to take charge and do something about your future, you might even just want to look at it, because some of what's in the media is not accurate. We don't have a magic solution for everyone. It's not about how much you pay to solve it. Sometimes we just don't have the solutions depending on where we're at.
Love that. And then for those who are looking at planning ahead, freezing their eggs, because I know that's becoming very, very popular and gaining more momentum, like, is there a number of eggs that you recommend that they freeze to have a good chance to have a baby?
Yeah, it really depends on kind of, again, in individualizing. So it depends on your goals, right? If you want to have one child or you want to have three children, very different number of eggs. If you want to have, if you're freezing your eggs at 20 or 25 or 30 or 35 or 40, also very different number of eggs. Because we know that egg quality decreases with age. And so actually a bit unfairly, the older you are, the more abnormal your eggs are, and also the fewer eggs we tend to get. So it's kind of like a double whammy there where you're getting fewer eggs, and those eggs are less likely to lead to pregnancy per egg. And so it's hard for me to give like a one size fits all answer, but we have calculators for that. And just like you are giving people these resources, I will give this resource that all of us doctors who have been trained in the recent history have this tool. Brigham and Women's Hospital, it's Harvard's hospital in Massachusetts. They put together a calculator that anyone can access. It's the BWH egg freezing calculator. And you put in there your age and how many eggs you have, and or basically how many eggs you're freezing at that age, and it gives you your chance of having one baby, two babies, three babies from those eggs. And then you can take those chances and say, okay, is this enough of a chance for me to want more eggs? Or am I content with this? Or do I need to do another cycle of egg freezing? And I'll just plug one thing there, which is that um, you're not taking away your future fertility by freezing eggs. We're not taking away eggs that are going to be for your future. Every month, you're losing about 1,000 eggs, even though you're ovulating only one per cycle. And so we're actually rescuing some of those eggs that you would have lost that month by doing an egg freezing. We're not affecting your future fertility. And the way to know kind of how many eggs you have around is to be evaluated. So either an ultrasound, or if you've heard of AMH hormone testing, AMH is a test that gives you a sense of how many follicles are around, which gives you a sense of how many eggs you have around, is a way to see where you are compared to your age. Because age is just one factor, and I don't want to ever group someone into just their age. We want to see your overall reserve. And so by checking your AMH, you can get a sense of where you're at compared to your age. And then since we're plugging things about that, I will say that we are doing at HRC a free AMH testing event, so you can get a sense of what your AMH is. Totally free. You don't have to book a consultation or anything like that. But you do have to sign up for the AMH event, and I don't know if we have a way to send people a link after, but our
Yeah, send me the link and I'll include it in the recap email. So,
perfect, perfect. So the AMH event is on May 13th, and then we go over those results with you on the phone, or you can come in for the consultation. We will also send you how to do the $100 consultation rate as well, Angela.
awesome. Um, Sorry, can I bother you with one more question?
Please, please, please.
I'm curious, like, what's the decision-making process actually look like when you're, and of course, there's no one size fit all for anything that we're talking about here today, but um, when you're determining whether a patient should first try IUI versus moving straight into IVF, like, what are some of the things that you look for in determining that? guidance.
Yeah, a few things. It's a lot of strategy that goes into that, like you kind of brought up, but a few things go into it. So one thing is goals again. So if a couple is looking for one child versus say two or three children, depending on their age, they might want to bank some embryos for the future. So just like you can wrap your hand around like freezing eggs for the future, you might want to do that freezing eggs aspect, but as embryos. So if you're, say, 38 and you've been trying for 2 years to get pregnant, it's already been difficult to get pregnant at 38, but you want a second child. Well, let's say you get pregnant tomorrow. You're ready for your second child at 40. If it was hard at 38, it's going to be harder at 40. Or same thing, you're 40. If it's hard at 40, it's going to be much, much harder at 42. And so sometimes in that situation, we'll say, okay, IVF makes more sense so that we can bank some embryos for the future. Then once we have some embryos frozen, get you pregnant with one of those embryos and have the rest of the embryos frozen for baby number two or baby number three or whatever it might be. So that's one situation where IVF might make more sense than going into IUI because IUI doesn't give you that option. Other cases where the IVF definitely makes sense before IUI is if the tubes are blocked, and that's part of our evaluation. If your fallopian tubes are blocked, the sperm can't find its way to the eggs, and then the egg, once it becomes an embryo with a sperm, can't find its way back into the uterus. So that's a must for IVF, unless you open your tubes, which is really, really rare to successfully do. And then the final is sperm count. So again, part of our evaluation, never think that fertility is half the picture, right? You need the whole picture, male and female. The male is involved just as much as the female is involved in preventing pregnancy or getting to pregnancy. And so if the semen analysis shows us that there's just not enough sperm to even be successful with IUI or trying naturally, then IVF is the situation for that as well. And then there are other things that, are too personal to get into in like 3 minutes.
Yeah. No, that's a really good overview. I love that. One other question that I know we also got was one question is around timing of dietary changes in relation to cycles and fertility treatment. This person specifically said that I was going to start a detox with a nutritionist who specializes in fertility, and she advised not to work with her in that way since I would be doing an egg retrieval in the next 3 months. So you might have some thoughts on this, Dr. Handelsman. My thought was, first of all, it depends on how intense this detox is, what exactly that protocol is. I don't know this particular nutritionist or what their protocol is. If you are eliminating a lot of foods all at once and you're doing a cleanse or you're fasting, that can put a lot of stress on the body, which we've already made clear that excess stress is not good on the body. If it's a very supplement heavy detox that involves a lot of herbal supplements, the concern, I think, is that there's not a lot of research to see how that might interact with fertility medications and things like that. That being said, I don't know what this is, but I'm assuming there's probably a lot of heavy supplementation involved. So what I would say from a nutrition perspective is just really prioritizing an anti-inflammatory diet. Some call it like a Mediterranean diet if you want to put labels on it, but like really looking at what foods to add to just help your body to detox naturally because we're all detoxing naturally. We just want to lessen the load so that your body is able to do its thing. So you can reduce or eliminate certain foods. Like I know people ask me this all the time, like, do I need to, eliminate gluten, dairy, sugar, and soy? I was told I had to get rid of all of those things. I think that's very overwhelming, and most of us if you're told to cut out all of those things, you end up not eating enough. You might substitute with foods that are way less nutritious. Um, and it may not even be necessary. I think every person is very individual. If you are noticing inflammatory responses to gluten and dairy specifically, then yes, cut that out. Should definitely help. But if you aren't noticing that, that may not be necessary for you. Um, and so really just focusing on those whole foods that you can add. You can also reduce your toxin exposure, like in your environment. That's what we're doing with the toxin audit, and the cooking utensils, things that you're using in your day to day. Um, oh, and I will say reducing sugar though is a good place to start to help kind of lower inflammation in that way. But in regards to the timing aspect, and you can probably speak to this a little bit more. Ideally, you do want to start making dietary changes in a perfect world at least 3 months ahead, because if you want it to affect egg quality, it takes 3 months for, an egg to fully mature. But again, as Dr. Handelsman was saying, like depending on your age, it doesn't have to be an either or. It doesn't have to be just like, let me focus on nutrition and put that off. That's not something I don't think anyone would really recommend. You can do these things at the same time. But getting started sooner than later, even if it's just doing one thing differently, is a great place to start while you are looking into doing fertility treatment or freezing your eggs or whatever it is. Um, but it takes about 3 months for those changes to really impact egg health. But even if you're past that point, you've already frozen your eggs, and it's like, well, does nutrition even matter now? Again, like what we're talking about, this whole topic of today is really about lowering inflammation, which is also going to help with your implantation and being able to, you know, actually take that egg and like grow it, right? So I think it still kind of matters, and it's not something that you have to put off. It kind of just depends on like what your goals are. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, but
I think your answer was comprehensive and I loved it because there are two kind of approaches to it, right? Like whatever this detox or improving nutrition might be, there's the kind of stress out my body with this crazy detox cleanse, whatever that means, versus the approach that we saw today, which is let's add healthy things to the to your diet. And the kind of unsaid part of what you were saying is as you add more unhealthy things to your diet, those unhealthy things are going to naturally disappear too because it's replacing it. And so there's no problem at all doing that at the same time. Because you are making healthy choices, your body's going to love those healthy choices. Once you do these huge, crazy detox cleanses and you're just completely malnourishing your body and caloric deficit and all of that, which sure will help you lose weight and all of that, at least in the short term, and it's not very sustainable, that's not the best time to be trying to get pregnant because your body wants nutrients and all of that when you're getting pregnant. So definitely I understand why that fertility doctor for this patient might have said, hey, avoid a certain program because it sounds like maybe that program was one of those big detox cleanses that aren't really giving you the appropriate nutrition that you need in that actual time period.
yeah. Does anybody have any other questions that they want to ask before we wrap up for today? Don't be shy. All right. Well, I think we're going to finish up today. I really appreciate you guys being here and staying with us till the end. I know we went a little bit over time, so I just really appreciate Dr. Handelsman for being here. And I know he is so busy, so appreciate him taking the time to be with us today and answering all of your questions. And again, if you guys have any questions for either of us, I will be sending a recap email with this replay and all of the links, coupon codes, good stuff for follow up after if you are interested. And thank you guys so much for being here. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Angela.